Hi guys, thanks for watching this video for my GoFundMe campaign. I need your help. I need my audience's help. I need donations right now. I need help from my spiritual community at large, okay? I never call on anyone. I'm calling on you now because I need to do three things. I need to get back to the US. I've got to refilm for 2 documentaries, okay? And it's the cost for getting myself and my producer in a car to travel across America to meet new witnesses and to get the new testimony that we need. So basically, new evidence came to light on the Richard Baldwin documentary that completely shifts the whole documentary. I'm gonna go over and vlog the whole thing. I'm gonna be sharing my journey with you, okay? So it's no longer called Richard Baldwin, A Murder in Camelot. It's going to be called something else, okay? And this new testimony is going to blow the whole case out the water, all right? So I need help in funding that. I also need a bit of help on my journey across America in refilming some of the scenes that I filmed for the channeling documentary. So both the Richard Baldwin documentary and the channeling documentary, or the docu-series that they're going to be free on my network by the look of it, okay? And finally, I want to launch the International Spiritual News Network. This was going to be the network that's going to not only take the documentaries that I'm doing now and in the future, which is looking at problems within our community, looking at all sorts of mainstream issues as well. But most importantly, the ISNN will be looking at the mainstream news from a spiritual perspective. Imagine listening to the news and then hearing the deeper karmic reasons as to why the things are happening the way they are. That's the whole point of the ISNN. So just go to www.theisnn.com and donate, please. Please help me raise 10,000 UK pounds to launch the ISNN, to travel across the US to complete these 2 documentaries, which will be the first docu-series going out on the ISNN. Okay, this is the announcement of the launch of the ISNN. So whatever you can donate, if you can just share this video, that would be amazing. And just thank you so much for your support. Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of The Kevin Moore Show. Now on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Eugenia Oganova. Now Eugenia is a Transcension mentor and the founder of the Transcension Gate, a multidimensional hub and educational portal that acts as a catalyst for planetary ascension. Now born clairvoyant and telepathically linked to the universal intelligence, Eugenia teaches transcension, walking the spiritual path, and practical steps into self-mastery. Now, Eugenia's teachings are a composite of her personal knowledge and her direct telepathic communications with the Solar Council and many other multidimensional intelligences. Eugenia Oganova, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kevin. Nice to be here.
It's lovely to have you on. And my mind, first of all, wants to go straight to who you are, what you're about. So if we just go to what is it you do, first of all? So if we just can summarize that for us.
I am a Transcension mentor and I'm a soul strategist. What that means is that I help people figure out what is it that they are meant to do in life. Essentially figure out their purpose and build a foundation for that purpose to land in their life. So they claim their enoughness, they claim who they are within their life. And then we design clear steps on the path to whatever it is that they actually meant to do. That's the soul strategy.
Well, thank you. And how long does, I mean, is that just in a reading you can work that out? Are you talking about that's a course that they would take? I mean, how does one come to you to work that out, and how long does that take to sort of do as well?
Well, it's a lifetime journey. Obviously, spirituality is a path, but when people work with me, they can do it one-on-one with me. So essentially, we schedule an appointment and we dig into something particular for that person. And I also have a membership, which is a community. That's the Transcension Gate. That is the part that is incredible community of physical and non-physical beings that come together to work on this path of spiritual enlightenment and walking together and actually serving through the path of self-mastery in order to benefit the planet and humanity.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, you're in Maine in the USA. I've actually been to Maine, and you know what? I found it a really beautiful place. As much as I wasn't there for the nicest of things, it was a really peaceful place. How the heck did you get based in Maine?
Oh, it's a long story. I originally come from Russia. I was born in St. Petersburg in Russia, and then I immigrated into United States, ended up in college in Boston, got married, and then my husband and I kept moving north because the planetary energy towards the crown chakra of the planet is more compatible with the type of work I do. So we keep going north. Every location we're living every 10 years seems to be further north. So that's how we eventually ended up in Maine.
No, honestly, I think Maine is a gem. I think it's a very beautiful place. I mean, the winters there I know are really harsh. But there's lots of famous people in Maine. Not just Stephen King, but there's lots of celebrities that go there just to be out the way of Hollywood.
Well, the energy of Maine is very pure. There's a lot of rocks, and because of granite, there's a lot of high frequency, and there's not that many people, so there's a lot of space. And anytime you get rocks and pine trees and ocean and space, you get really pure energy. So that's part of the reason why I'm here.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned that you're from Russia. Now, I mean, what's the spiritual kind of community like in Russia? Is there one? Is there clairvoyance and mediums and things? Or is that kind of stuff a bit forbidden?
No, it's the other way around, actually, in my understanding. Inside the Soviet Union, it was actually very known that people have different abilities beyond basic human senses. And I'm not talking about fortune telling or anything like that. I'm talking actually about professional people who understand how energy system works, understand how to heal energy system, understand how the body and the energy system are connected. That has been a known research and everything in the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union fell apart, obviously this still exists, but I don't know. I left then.
Absolutely. Have you been back since you left?
Yeah, a few times.
Yeah. So you got family over there?
No, my family all moved here, but it's a community that I kind of relate to, so that's why.
Absolutely.
Plus, it's my home. I like the city.
Well, of course, it will.
Now this is my home.
Yes, of course. Well, you've got two homes now. So, what was this ability like growing up then? Was it recognized? Were you born with the gift? And just go over the gift. You said you were clairvoyant. Is that right?
Yeah, clairvoyancy is not what people usually think. People kind of think of it like, oh, that means you're psychic, so you know stuff. Yes, that's too, in addition to it. But being clairvoyant means actually having ability to see further, so having a vision. And there are different types of clairvoyancy. Mine is multidimensional. So that means I don't just see somebody's energy field when I look at the person. I see the physical body, I see the energy field, and I see also everything else that's going on in their life, like their current issues, what they're dealing with, what their struggles are, what they care about, why they care about it, what their soul contract is for this lifetime, why they chose what they chose to deal with, and multidimensionally as well. I see different beings that are in forms that are non-physical but still have some forms, and the range is really wide. So there are different kinds of clairvoyancy. Mine is multidimensional. So that's what that means. And growing up with that was kind of unusual because I was born conscious. I was born with that ability to begin with, but also conscious telepathic contact with those multidimensional intelligences. So most people, when we get born, we turn off that ability. That's actually normal. Like, you're born, you're a baby, you start again, you try to figure it out, and maybe eventually you wake up that ability to whatever extent. In my situation, because of my soul contract in this lifetime, because of my mission and what I meant to do, I was designed to not fall asleep. So when I was born, that never turned off. So I remember everything before this lifetime, all the other lifetimes I've had. And I remember being born, and I remember actually being a baby. And it was very confusing and difficult, because being in a little body that cannot explain things, while the consciousness is of a, ancient being translated into human body, that was complicated. Plus, I kept bumping into things because I couldn't figure out what is physical, what is not. So by the time I was 2.5, 3 years old, I finally figured out, talking to my father, that when I was trying to explain to him about this energy friend of mine that was standing next to me, that he, of course, my father could not see, that he could see the door frame I was standing in, my father, and he could see me, but he could not see my friend. So I figured out, the things I can bump into, those are the things that everybody see, and the things I cannot bump into, those are the things that they don't see. So that was my first sort of reset of how I then learned to translate reality. So yeah, it was a different journey than most.
Was it a difficult journey?
Sure, it was, because from the standpoint of a human translation, it would probably feel like being lonely. I was never actually lonely in the human sense, because I am in connection with so many different beings, but most of my friends were non-physical, and I was essentially homeschooled, because being among people was very difficult for me. Plus, I'm nocturnal, so I sleep during the day and I awake at night. So my brain is calibrated differently. So that made it pretty much impossible to function in a traditional way in a normal world. But I, graduated school. I did everything. I did it in an unconventional way, without that much human contact. Most of my I had few girlfriends, obviously, but it was different than, I think, a normal life of a teenager, let's say. And I had clients. I've seen clients since I was very little. When I was 2 years old, I already was working with people. By the time I was 14, I had clients coming to me officially, scheduling and all that stuff. So this has been my journey my whole life. So as far as personal life, I didn't really have that much, but my whole life essentially is about service, and that's because of the way that I'm designed this lifetime.
Yes, absolutely. And when did you start this work full time? Because and how many years have you been doing this work full time?
About 25 years professionally, and before that, my whole life.
Yeah, but professionally 25 years. And obviously, in the description below, we're going to link to your website, which is
TRANSCENSIONGATE.com.
Okay, and we're going to link to your YouTube channel as well, because you do many different videos on a whole variety of subjects. What's the most common thing that people come to see you for, would you say?
Life purpose.
It is life purpose, yeah.
It's a life purpose, because that's probably the most common question I get. I feel like something is missing in my life. I'm doing everything sort of right according to whatever I think it's supposed to be, but I feel there's something more. I feel I meant to do something. What is this something? Who am I? Where do I come from? That's pretty much the main reason people come to me. And another one is, I would say, this experience of not fitting in. That is something I myself experienced because of my sensitivity. I never let it limit me, but I had to really be courageous and push through a lot of it, because being sensitive translates a lot of times as being weak in society, even though it's not actually a weakness, it's a strength. And I teach that. This is actually part of why the reason why people come to me is that they feel that they have this weakness, and it's actually not a liability, it's an asset. And it could be utilized for their journey. And there's a reason why the sensitivity exists. There are different levels of it. So if the person doesn't know what is it that they meant to do, the purpose, and they have the sensitivity, it will translate as I'm weak somehow. There's something wrong with me. I can't do things. Why am I so affected when somebody else is not? But if they understand what the sensitivity is actually for, and then I teach them how to apply it to whatever their mission is, whatever they meant to do, then it translates into, oh, wow, I'm actually, well, special in a sense. I have an ability that this sensitivity allows me to have. Like so many people who are empathic, they don't know they're empathic, but they think like, oh, I just pick up emotions from everybody and it's so confusing and I get so overwhelmed. And then we start working with it and realize that, oh, you're empathic. You actually have ability to perceive other person's emotion. But because you never got any training, you don't know what to do with it. So then we build up a system, and that's why people work with me, is that we do that. And we do that in the membership as well when I explain the bigger way of how to do that.
Right.
In order to figure out how to use their sensitivity.
Absolutely. So I kind of want to get back into your work a little bit, but just with purpose. So that can be, I'm guessing that relationships are a key one that people are interested in, but it can be for the relationship as well, for a relationship purpose?
If you mean human relationships, no. Most of the people that I work with, if they're interested in relationship, it's vertical relationship. It's between them and the universe, them and their energy guides, them and God source. Human relationships, not my strength. I've been married for 25 years, but that's my personal story. But as far as working with connecting human to human, that's not what I do.
No. Okay. So you're very. When did the work? Let me ask you that again. Sorry. When did the work actually specialize into that sort of field for you?
From the very beginning, that's part of my mission. When I was born, I always knew that I'm meant to support people who have a particular mission to help the planet and the human consciousness to get to the next level, to help them wake up and remember that that's what they meant to do. Because a lot of these people feel that in their hearts of hearts, they can sense that there's something that I meant to do. And they know that it has to do with somehow bettering this planet and the human consciousness. But they don't know necessarily how, and they don't know what it means. And if they try to go typical sort of religious way, it usually has its limitations. And if you go typical New Age way, it gets too wishy-washy very quickly. And I'm sort of in the middle. I'm scientific and I'm not New Age, but at the same time, I'm very spiritually connected in a multidimensional sense, which is part of why I have the following that I have, why people come to me, because like I have engineers, I have people who are nuclear scientists that I work with. I have people who even technology, programming, whatever, like the minds that normally would never work with somebody who's clairvoyant, because typical clairvoyant is translated into psychic. And I'm not. I'm something else, even though, yes, I guess I am psychic too, but in a different sense altogether.
Sure, absolutely. And you talk about your unconscious telepathic contact with non-physical beings all your life. So is that a form of channeling?
Yeah, I guess. I don't call it channeling. I call it telepathic contact. Channeling is when you, full body channel is when the person gets out of the way and the energy just goes through them. Partial channeling is when we tune into something and then we bring information. What I do is neither one of those. I remain myself. I'm conscious as Eugenia as a person, while at the same time I have access on 28 channels actually to different things that are going on. And it's kind of like having 28 different channels playing in your mind, like different movies going or different radio stations. I'm visual, so for me it's like movies. So I can tune into either one of them depending on what's going on, which one asks for my attention more. They have to do with the planetary setup. I'm connected to the solar council, which are the beings that deal with the solar system, and all of the activity that is non-physical, and there are non-physical beings that people call aliens, as in literally in a physical form from another planet, but then there are also non-physical beings that are multidimensional, some from this planet, so the extraterrestrials and intraterrestrials, I guess, some not from this planet, but some beings have the material form, so that would be an actual somebody that came here from elsewhere and then interacts with a particular organization, essentially, to have a visa to get in and all that stuff. But I deal with more of the higher aspect of that, and the body that oversees that, the console, is called solar console because it's in the sun. So that's who I deal with mostly, but there are also other types of beings. That's what I'm kind of plugged into all the time. And universal intelligence is another part of that. Think of it like a library of the universe. So that's how I can get access to the information that is needed, which I use for my clients. Obviously, this is what I teach in my membership. This is what every month we work with whatever's going on in the solar system and inside planetary consciousness adjustments, the morphogenic fields and all that, from the perspective of what information I can pull into my consciousness. But being in telepathic contact means that I don't get out of the way and it just drops in. I'm actually a person that's interacting with the information. It's more like having advisors instead of getting out of the way and just information downloaded into you.
And are they with you all the time? Or, I mean, you're not accessing them all the time, but are they there?
Yeah, I am, and they're not with me. So in what you said, it's like yes and no. Are they with me? No, they're not. There's all sorts of activities going on, and they just happening. Besides, whatever I'm doing doesn't matter. They just exist. Like the solar console goes on doing its own business, and many different beings do their own thing, including working on different projects. I'm just aware of the projects, and depending when I choose to focus to, that's the one that I can then pull in more information about. But am I aware of it all the time? Yes. Which makes my life very interesting.
No, I bet it does. I bet it does. And do you think other people are in tune with what you are, but call it something else?
There are many different consoles of light. So there are different people who channel that connect to different consoles of light spiritually. And because of it, they do have some access to the information as well. There's some people who are involved in what their own guides are guiding them into. So that might be part of one of the projects that I work with as well. Absolutely. And then there's the human kind of more physicalized component, like the secret government and the whole, component of actual physical beings and actual spaceships coming in and doing something. That's not what I deal with, but that does exist as well. So there are people who work with that. And that's something that I can also be aware of, and it could be part of the same project.
Of course. And okay, we're just going to get into a few questions here before we go back to purpose, because I want to get back there. It's important. You talk about in your work morphogenic fields, and these sort of how these morphogenic fields influence our consciousness. What is that then? Yeah.
Morphogenic field is actually a term from biology, but I've adopted it because it works really well for what I teach in Transcension Soul Strategy. It is a system of consciousness that is unified, sort of like a cloud storage, like how you would put your information on a cloud and now it all exists there somewhere on a server, but not in your computer. So if you're like a computer, then the morphogenic field is like a server, like a cloud. And that means that whatever the group consciousness believes of a race, may that be human race or any other race, past or present in the timeline, along the timeline in the future and the past, doesn't matter. They all exist in different fields. So those are different morphogenic fields. They're like group programs. And on this planet, we have been sort of adjusted, augmented in how our natural morphogenic fields are meant to be. So we're meant to sort of go for the pathway of harmonious development. And instead, human race made a choice to go through the victim detour in order to understand its power. And as human race is still doing that, there's so many morphogenic fields like the victim-victimizer field or the control fields. Like there's so many different negative fields like false king, false god. There's so many of those. Those are sort of replacements for the harmonious fields. And what I do as my personal work with the solar console and guardians that I work with, guardian host, is to work with those fields. Some planetary fields, so human consciousness, some solar system fields, and so on. But human beings, individual people, all connect to those fields. Like you connect to those fields, I connect to those fields, everybody does, because that's, you can think of it like archetypes. So like a hero field, let's say, that's an archetypal field of what it means to be a hero. So what I do with people individually and in my membership is when somebody is plugged into a negative field, they get influenced by the belief system of the tribe that they might not even belong to. So, and let's say if it's a negative field, we definitely want to unplug from it, disconnect from it. And that's not a mechanical process, like unplugging. I'm using the term, but it's actually more of a psychological process. It's adjusting your belief system in order to shift into a more harmonious way, which then resets that individual to connect to a harmonious field, which is lovely support, and it's good, and we're all meant to do that, instead of the negative one that siphons our energy.
Right, right. Well, and just before we move on as well, just some basic questions as well. I mean, like, if I was to say to you, why are we here? What is the purpose of this experience? I mean, that's such a loaded question, isn't it? Because we're, you know, are we here just to be what we are right now and not to really question that too much, just to get on with it and be in the present moment? Is it useful to try to really work out the bigger purpose of the nature of reality in a sense? Because we're never going to get a full answer, only accept an answer that we feel happy with, and maybe some of us aren't even that happy with the answers that we get, because, you know, we only know what we know right now, don't we? And to get too lost is to maybe not be in the present moment.
Well, the answer to that one would be actually two different answers depending who you mean by we. If by we you mean human race, that's a different answer than, let's say, starseeds or being that came here to support the consciousness change. So I'll answer it, I guess, both ways. For the human beings, being on the planet Earth, this is an experiment in awakening consciousness that is actually part of the universal experience. So all consciousnesses in the universe do the same process. We, at some point, separate from God's source, from some unified consciousness. Then we go into density, into separation, perception, one way or another, some much further than others, like we are really far down in that. And then through this duality, through having two opposites that interplay with one another, we kind of create a friction. And that friction is what builds our identity. And our identity becomes an individual lens. And that lens is how God or the universe benefits. So essentially, that's kind of, to answer this shortly, that would be the purpose of being a human being and becoming conscious, is that you become a unique lens that is one of the eyes of the universe, one of the ways of perception that now enriches the universe by the fact that you're unique and there's nobody else like you. So that's one, each one of us has that complete resonance of being this special something. And the more we allow ourselves to actually shed all the preconceived idea what we're supposed to be, or somebody told us, or some morphogenic field that we plugged into, and instead actually become ourselves and explore that further and deepen into it more, we become then whatever we're actually meant to be, which is that unique brilliance of our soul essence shining through. So that's the process. That process got a little diverted, as I said, into the victim consciousness detour because of what has happened on this planet a while back when different negative beings came in and humans got scared and gave their power away, and now slowly taking the power back. So we're finally at the turning point where we're meant to wake up. So that's the answer for the human part. And starseeds, those are the souls that 8% of human population right now that came from elsewhere, like I'm a starseed. Those are the beings that soul-wise were not from Earth. So we're still in human bodies here like everybody else, of course, but consciousness-wise, not from here. So that's part of Starseed Initiative, which is a group that's initiated by the Solar Council that I work with, which is to help change this planetary simulation environment into a syntropic system, which it became entropic due to the victim detour.
What would that syntropic system look like? I mean, what are we talking? More peace, more joy, more happiness?
Syntropic means self-sourcing. So it's not about necessarily like goody, the ego gets what ego wants. Not necessarily. I'm sure there's still going to be human issues, and that's part of being a human, right? But when we're talking about being syntropic, we're talking about being self-sourcing. Instead of looking for something outside to give us something like permission or reflect our power or tell us we're good enough or that we're somebody, like whatever it is that people always look from the outside, that's being entropic. That's losing energy and constantly looking for it. So in a simple terms, it could be said like living on battery, and syntropic would be like living plugged in. So you always have the current. But when you live on the battery life, the battery will eventually run out. And that's why everybody walks around so exhausted and lost, because of this entropic system functioning. And since we are holographic components of the whole, we actually reflect the state of the planet. So this planet was meant originally to be syntropic, self-sourcing, and Earth is designed incredibly. This is awesome simulation. It's everything you can think of this planet can do. It's incredible. But it's been diverted a little bit, and unfortunately, human race has been acting a little bit like parasites for a while. So now we're waking up to treat the planet better, but in doing so, we're also helping the planet become, again, self-sourcing conscious entity, and we can match that and then feel harmonious, feel empowered, feel sovereign, feel like we're enough, and actually become masterful conscious beings that we're meant to become. That's essentially the transcension soul strategy that I teach.
And, you know, I just think when you're talking to me, I'm just thinking, oh, you know, what about some of the guests I've had on before that just talk about a sort of basic near-death experience? And, you know, they only get to experience so much of, I mean, they'll talk about going back to a place called heaven or home, you know, they'll get to meet loved ones. But their depth of their understanding isn't as evolved as yours. Do you know what I mean? Your understanding's a lot broader. I don't really know what the question is there.
Right, I'm trying to figure out what the question is, but it sounds like what you're asking is, what is it that they are tuning into?
Well, yes, I am. Yes, yes, yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, what they are talking about, it's true. It really is an experience. It does happen that way, but they're talking about the third dimension. So this universe is 12-dimensional. And that's what I meant by being clairvoyant in a multidimensional sense, is I actually have 12-dimensional range of perception. Most people's range is 3D. Some people who channel energy sometimes have further range, and it all depends on the contract. So I'm not in any way attaching value, saying one is better than another. Not, everybody have their own purpose, and there's a unique way. But when somebody talks about dying, when they die, they essentially exit the simulation. So if this thing, the body we're in is like an avatar in the game, so you exit the game. But when you exit the game, you don't disappear. You still you. It's just now you're you as a soul, so you don't have the shape of your body and all that. The personality goes away. So when people describe near-death experience, they're describing exiting the simulation. They're still in the third dimension, but now in a non-physical sense. And that's what reincarnation is that from there, the soul comes back into the simulation and takes another avatar body.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you just for clearing that up. I just, you know, I know for some people this will, well, no, actually for my broader audience this will make a lot of sense. But for some newbies coming into this, yeah, that's a good point you made. Now, getting to your work then, finding your, why is it important to find our purpose and to really tune into our purpose?
Well, if you don't know your purpose, you're living on autopilot. And autopilot are the karmic overlays and the programming of your parents or society or school. So that's why it's important. We want to be self-propelled conscious beings. That's what it means to be free-willed being. To have free will means you have to actually will yourself, propel yourself. So if we claim to be free will beings, but we don't actually utilize our will, instead of, you know, well, maybe in an ego tantrum, but not in a real sense, utilize our will in a higher sense, then we end up following the path that is set out by our karmic patterns, unfinished lessons, by whatever somebody else's expectations of us. And all of that leads to, well, feeling unfulfilled, feeling lost, feeling not good enough, feeling like somehow there's something bigger, but I'm not doing it. Is this all there is to life? This is essentially why it's important to do the other thing, because when you know what you're meant to do, you then show up in sort of all the glory that you are, then yes, it's still hard. It still could be confusing. It still could be not an easy thing and not always harmonious. But at least in the center of your being, you feel like this is my life instead of the life that somebody else told me I should be having.
You know, I feel for my purpose, I was thinking about this the other day. It was, you know, I was watching a YouTube video, and it was of a lady called Rachel on this talk show host called Rachel in the US, right? And just that presence of being in front of an audience, doing a show in front of an audience with a live audience there, and having it syndicated and all that, that reminded me what I always wanted to do. What I always wanted to do was to have an Oprah type show where it's not obviously Oprah, but it's, you know, I don't want to be Oprah, but those type of difficult subjects that she covered, the more kind of real life inspirational type of subjects. And I think to myself, well, I can't do that right now. I don't know the path to get there, to do that type of show in front of an audience. So what I've chosen to do right now is to take this show that I'm doing, the Kevin Moore Show, and to start changing it and evolving it to more different types of interviews, where it's more kind of real life inspirational type shows, more, you know, shows on, you know, people who have been through a journey or going through a journey. So when you say, you know, with you know, how important purpose is, sometimes you know what you want, but you just can't get there just right away. You've got to, there's a path to go down almost. I mean, in my head I could keep imagining it and, you know, fixating on the idea and pulling it from the 3D reality into the physical reality. That I can do, right? But I can't go do that now. I've got to do what I can do now, which is this.
Well, everything you just said is a way of looking at what purpose is, but that's a very small kind of box. That's not quite the purpose I meant. Purpose that from the soul level we preset, that's called soul contract, something that we actually choose to do within lifetime, is never about something we do, like set up a nonprofit organization or create a show or write a book. That's not a purpose. That's a personality preference. So you personally have a personality preference in having that kind of a show, and that's great for the personality preference. The purpose, though, goes much deeper. The purpose has to do with the meaning behind whatever the personality would like. And sometimes it does go with what the personality wants, and sometimes it does not. If the personality has been programmed to want it based on, like, let's say if somebody was raised with the idea, not you, but let's say somebody else was raised with the idea that being popular is the ultimate strength, that person might then really want to be somehow a very popular singer, let's say, or whatever, not because they actually want to show their talent, but because that's how they feel they can finally get this I'm good enough feeling. So none of that is purpose. Purpose has to do with the internal drive to show up in a way that is contributing the most to the whole. We are not living in isolation. It's not an individual thing. We are unique beings, but we are living in a fractal holographic syntropy. So we are all fractals, compressed fractals of this giant hologram that is the universe, and in a smaller way, the fractal arm that is the solar system, and in a smaller way, the fractal arm that is this planet. So we are actually conscious pieces of the puzzle. So us activating the ultimate piece that we are, that's the mission. And each one has a different one.
That I know that when I don't like the idea of the massive attention that gives, right? I actually don't. I don't like the idea of, you know, that many eyes on me, right? But I will say just the act of doing it and covering those type of shows and getting that information out in that way feels so fulfilling. That would feel very fulfilling to take on that role. Yeah that's because of what your actual mission is. You know, to question that, if I was to go, what is, and I'm doing this as for people watching, for you to get to do this to yourself as well, to go through this process that we're going through it now, but to actually ask myself, well, what is that actual mission? At 40 years old, I cannot answer that.
Most people cannot. That's because it's meant to be discovered, and it's actually depending on where the person is within their spiritual development. If they are on the later stages, they will have more intuitive inklings in this direction. They would have more synchronicities happening in their life to guide them. If, on another hand, the person is in the early stages of their development, they might not actually know what they're looking for. So there is a range here of consciousness. But when we desire something in the heart of hearts, something that is really true essence, that's the part that's always connected to the mission. And then the translation of that onto the human sense would be, okay, how do I apply it? The application of it could look different. Like somebody could be learning courage by being a firefighter or by being a single parent. It's still courage. They're still going to be fascinated with that. That's the mission that they meant to fulfill, to hold that. But how they're doing it will depend on what their personality is choosing to learn it through, depending on life circumstances and the preference of their character.
And so you tap into that by tapping into your guides?
No, I read it in the person's soul contract, which is stored in the person's inner library, which is something that I actually can read and see. Think of it like you're walking around with this whole data banks attached to you, but you just don't know about it because that's not part of your contract to be able to read that. And then there's kind of people like me that can, so that would be getting more information than, let's say, somebody else. I'm still getting human component of it too, but I also get other information. And I can essentially pull up that file, so I can read what is the person meant to do. Soul contract is something that you literally agree before you enter the simulation. Like you mentioned, after death experience, when somebody dies, well, they exit the simulation. And they spend 40 days within this cocoon when they kind of review their lifetime. This is kind of traditional process. And then when they're done, now they are planning the next incarnation. They're planning what will be my next lesson, who do I want to connect and put into my contract that I'm going to work with, why am I going to do it, what does it mean for me, what's my outcome that I'm looking for to get from this next lifetime. All of that, that's what I call the soul contract. It's coming up with these parameters of perception and learning for the next incarnation. So when a person actually incarnates, that contract is like a compressed file inside their field.
And how fulfilling does living on your purpose feel like? How that must feel very fulfilling.
It feels confident. It feels like you are in the right place and the right time. One way that most people describe it is when synchronicity happens. You know how you kind of feel like, oh, I touched the magic of the universe, right? Like something happens, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like I knew who's gonna call, or I was just going to look for this and before I even looked, it showed up, or something happened and I know exactly what that means when logically I shouldn't know what that means. Those moments of synchronicity, that's where reality bleeds through the illusion into our consciousness. And they happen when we're living our purpose, because then we're going on a trajectory of our life that we actually meant to be living, which puts us in alignment with the syntropic state that we're trying to become. And as soon as you're in syntropy, you gain access to the universe.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think I asked this before, but I'm just scratching my head virtually about this. So how many times, so if I came to you for a reading, you could tune into something pretty much first time then to sort of point me in the right direction?
Yeah, the way I work, there are different systems how I do what I do. But yes, essentially, if somebody schedules an appointment with me, they will start by telling me what is it that's going on in their life and what they would like. And usually I let the person speak for a while, but pretty much within the first 2-3 minutes, I can see the whole system. And then it's the matter of figuring out how to deliver what I see to this person so it's relevant within the parameters of where they are and what they actually need. Because stuff I know is not what the person always needs the whole thing. They might need one little part of what I see. So then it's figuring out which part is the essential part for that person on that stage. Then when the person schedules the next appointment, let's say 3 months later, we look into what they have applied from what we have figured out, because I do lay out clear steps of what they need to do internally and externally. So depending on how well they did or what they have discovered, there could be a next piece that they're ready for. So then they get the next piece. Yeah, it's the universal law to not overwhelm a consciousness, because it's not beneficial. We're meant to actually get what we need as we need it. Everything in the universe is extremely efficient. We are meant to be applicable. And a lot of times people get caught in their curiosity, but it borders on entertainment. They just want it for the sake of like, oh, it will be cool to know. Yeah, but if it's not applicable, it's not actually going to change anything in that person's life. So my job, from the integrity of being connected to the multidimensional energy, is to pull correct components for that person within the parameters of their perceptual range now.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It's just, it's just that age-old thing. Is like, if someone said to me, what do you do, Kev? What are you doing right now? I would say, if I had a business right now, it would be the readers platform that I'm building. I'm building a readers platform on a website called channeling.com. I've got a documentary coming out on channeling, and I've also got a readers platform that I'm going to build out as my business. But
awesome.
How fulfilling will that be long term? It'll be nice to be able to use money from something else to put into the things I'd really love to do. That is true. It will be a funder for doing more documentary, more shows like this. But it's one that I've struggled with a long time, and I'm only being honest because I want other people to see that they need to be honest with themselves as well. Purpose, we get so stuck in what society tells us we should be doing, like the 9 to 5, the family and everything else, and I've got nothing wrong against any of that stuff, but it's like, am I fulfilled? Am I fulfilled? And why shouldn't I be fulfilled in what I'm doing? Because other people would want this life. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about the soul strategy, purpose. That's strategically living your soul purpose instead of doing what is pre-programmed by society or upbringing or genetics or whatever else. So when you're talking about doing something, there is a decision made from your personality, right? Like you were mentally deciding that, okay, this could work, this could bring me some money, this could be beneficial, this could help some people, so why not? But inside all of that, there is a drive. And that drive, that's where the truth lives. So that drive is the part to explore. And the more you do, the more you figure out if you're going to pivot or navigate a bit project as the project goes along. But a lot of times we actually have to allow something to develop in order to arrive to the next step where we're ready to pivot, instead of ahead of time setting up the whole map, knowing that, oh, okay, I'm going to change this in 3 years, so I better not start, because actually you might need the 3 years of this in order to get to the next step.
Right. I think the drive for me, the deeper things, I just enjoyed I would just enjoy having a business. I'd enjoy running a business. I think that's what it is. Oh God, I'll look back at this in a few years. I'll be like, no, you had that all wrong. It wasn't that. It was this. I think that's what it is right now. But
well, a lot of it is self-discovery too. That's something I hear from people I work with a lot, is that I might know what would work, but it's kind of irrelevant unless the person knows. So I can guide, and that's what I do as a mentor, I guide, but it's essentially the person's responsibility to then apply it, and through application, understand what that means for them. So a lot of times when we try to experience something, we're actually energetically overlaying a role. So it's like you're wearing an outfit of a different role to see if it fits or not. And then you either become that role, so your identity clicks in, and then it feels like you're in tune, in the flow with whatever this thing you desire to do, or it doesn't. And then pivot.
Now, I know thank you for that, by the way. And I know there's so much we haven't touched, but let me just say this as well. You're an author of a number of books. and I'm linking those books in the description below. And we chose not to talk about the books on this one, but I just want to mention them because obviously they are there. And how many of you are authored?
There's a Mission Alpha book. That's the book that I would say is, if you want to understand as a manual what is your system looks like, the energy anatomy, and understanding like psychologically who you are as a human being within the universe, that would be the entry point. It's a very complex book. It's not an easy flip through read. It's actually a manual. Like, you don't flip through a manual, you read it slowly. It has a lot of information and meditations and ways to experience things and apply. It's like a study book essentially. And then the other two books that I have, they touch on the similar subject. And this book it's called The Secret of Sekhmet. Sekhmet, that's her. It's a feline goddess from Egypt, but energetically, she's actually a conscious person from star system Sirius that came to Earth. So I had lifetime during that time period. So I essentially wrote down the story of what has happened during the time of Akhenaten and Nefertiti and the change of human consciousness, utilizing my past life memory. So the book is written like a movie, like you walk in through a movie.
I'm going to get you back on. Believe it or not, I'm going to get you back on. I am. I know there's a lot of stuff we've not talked about, and we've skirted over a lot of things, right? But I think the most important thing was me to get you on to talk about the work that you do. So there'll be people out there that do want to, get your help. But I'm going to get you back on.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'd like to talk more.
Yeah. Well, we the time has just disappeared, and I just want to thank you for nudging me to get you to come on.
You're welcome.
Yeah. that was great. So, and also, just I always do this with my guests, but just summarize it for us. What's the most important message of your work?
The most important message of my work is that each individual must be themselves. And that means we have to listen to the inner voice of who we truly are, and then let that shine through no matter what, no matter who's going to receive it, how, whatever we're afraid of, do it if you're afraid anyway, but do it because that's the only way to actually benefit the universe and us serve the universe and become masterful, which is really what our purpose is in the world. That's the soul strategy that I teach.
Absolutely. And just one last time, your website is? TRANSCENSIONGATE.com. Excellent. Well, that's been coming out throughout the interview. Your books are available from Amazon and all good bookstores. And I'd just like to say thank you very, very much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me here.